Hello, everyone. This is the Gears of Steam podcast. I am your host, Engineer Rad, also known as Raven Ashmore. Due to technical difficulties, the first 5 minutes of this podcast was gone lost. So I'm just going to jump straight into it. I have a special guest, Sergeant Dutch, here, and we are going to talk about the Army of Toy Soldiers. I hope you enjoy. So, we have the concept of, enlisting and recruiting people. What would be the methods for, if people were to actually join the army and wanted to get their friends involved, what methods would we use to get them enlisted?
Well, I guess the most important thing is to show them the website, toysoldiersunite.com. We also recently did a little bit of an upgrade so that it's actually mobile friendly. But also, mind control cookies, always good. Brainwashing videos, basically show them any of the videos produced by myself or any of the other toy soldiers in the army. Some of them do it regularly, some of them do it less regularly, one-offs. And then there's also Dr. Conundrum. Also, we have Raptor, who's just started up doing gaming videos with Engineer Airhead. And Engineer Airhead does his own live streaming as well. But I guess one of the most fundamental things you could use to help get someone enlisted in the Army of Toy Soldiers is to show them the manifesto, which is something we've had ever since the Army of Toy Soldiers was founded. Basically explains what our goals are, what our missions are, and usually that's how a lot of people get dragged in.
Yeah. This year, I think it was, I went to QCon in full Toy Soldier costume. I had a table selling my art. I also had, alongside that, the whole Toy Soldier propaganda of the little cards and the little A4 sheets saying what we're about. And I found that a lot of people took them and looked at them. I was like, another thing, this big giant smiley face and going, that's different. I was like, yeah. So I basically found it a very new experience talking to people that normally I would find very difficult to talk to. If I were just selling my art without toy soldiers, I wouldn't really have much to talk to. It's yeah, that's my art, I did that, and then I wouldn't have anything else to say. But I found that I tried to get that little mission where you try to get as many people to do the salute as possible. Not as many people warmed up to it. I think in Ireland they're not really that enthusiastic, but I did get one person.
That's great. It really does depend on the setting that you're in. The advantage of the Army of Toy Soldiers is that we kind of transcend the various subcultures. We're not just kind of steampunk, we're also cyberpunk, dieselpunk. We have people who consider themselves anarchists amongst the army. Most of our visual propaganda and so forth is a hark back to the 1950s and 60s, and it kind of just draws people in because they're not sure what to make of it. At the same time, that's a bit of a disadvantage to us because they don't know what to make of us. And that puts them in a kind of confused state, which is exactly the kind of state we want them in, because then we can suggest things to them.
So, in the website, you can find the drawings of the uniforms of the different regiments.
Yes, Sergeant Grinner was very kind to design a new set of uniforms for the Army of Toy Soldiers a few years back, and you've got different kinds for different regiments: the Nurse and Doctor's Regiment, the Scout Regiment, the Toy Soldier Regiment, which technically everyone is a part of, and of course the Engineers Department. And they're mainly there as a source of inspiration, because no uniform that a toy soldier has worn is ever the same as another. There's nothing uniform about the uniforms, ironically enough. And the advantage of some of the ones that Sergeant Grinner designed for us is that he's a cosplayer, and as such he knows the kind of materials toy soldiers have at their disposal, what they can find, be it either foam mats, pieces of junk lying around, costumes, and cheap stuff you find at a hardware store. and as such he incorporated that in a lot of his designs. And it's great to see some people are taking that to heart, others use it merely as inspiration and then come up with something completely different but just as awesome.
Yeah, like with my costume, which is a work in progress, as everything else is in my life, but I find that because of my character, just me in general, like the storyline behind him, it's obviously I'm going out of character, but a certain like the way I've done it is it has a deeper meaning if you can see it. If you can't, I'll tell you, kind of thing. Because in the storyline behind him, he lost his left arm. It's like with me, to explain it in a metaphorical sense, that's like me saying, when I grew up and I came into the time of puberty, I lost something about myself because I was becoming what you'd call, in society, a female. And to myself, I felt like I lost something because I couldn't connect with the guy side of the group as much as I could before, because obviously things were changing, shape was moving, and until recently, I kind of, well, in recent, I mean like the last 9 months or so, I kind of found myself again in that sense. He built his arm back by using as like a cyborg building a robot arm, and to me that's kind of like saying to myself, I know I'll never truly be biologically like what I want to be, but in a sense I'll be visually and mentally what I like, a man in a sense, and that's kind of that deeper meaning. And I brought that into this toy soldier thing because it's the way I can just easily be who I want to be and be myself in a way without having any like worries about judgment. And that's like where my kind of costume came from.
Absolutely, that sounds brilliant. And it is very important that you, to a degree, ignore the views of the world upon yourself, because in the end you have to be true to yourself, to sound as cheesy as possible here. And that involves sometimes reinventing yourself, but at the same time rediscovering yourself to what you are as a person, as a human being. And this kind of acceptance to yourself will inevitably lead to you evolving as a person and as a human being. And with any luck, within the next few decades, we will reach that level of technology where we can pretty much reassign ourselves to how we want to be, how we really are inside. Some of us may be born male but are in fact female. Their gender is completely mixed up, or they are someone completely different from how the world normally accepts them. And as such, we will have the ability soon to change how we want to be to that person. And that is something I'm really excited about, because it involves the singularity, the evolving of our technology and our society to a degree, to the point where we will be able to master everything from biologics to technological achievements with a little bit of giant robots.
Yes, obviously, there has to be at least some giant robots in there somewhere. Otherwise, why would my job be? But yeah, like I always find, no, surprisingly enough, like with this whole thing with me, I've had a really nice reception just in general from society. Obviously, I've had a few bumps in the road with a few people who are uneducated with the whole situation of being trans, but I think we are starting to get off on the right foot with like just the whole accepting the abnormal in a sense, because apparently the normal thing is a person who is not either gay or bi and is cis, and I'm like, no, there's a lot of normal people out there who are definitely not that.
There is definitely great acceptance in the world of things that the world usually didn't accept, and it takes a bit of time to find that. But after a while, what you've got to consider in the entire of human history, we have spent thousands of years at a point where nothing changed, where everything was basic, simple, it was a set way. And then the idea that things could change started evolving over about 1,000 years. And then in the last 100 years, things are changing at such a pace that everything we do becomes new, and while at the same time is new and exciting, is also extremely scary to those who aren't too open to this kind of change. And to get through all of that, it is important to just focus on where you want to go rather than where people want you to go.
Yeah. And I do find that the Toy Soldiers gives you that foothold to do that in the first place. Like, if I didn't have, or if I hadn't discovered it at the time, I probably wouldn't be who I am now. I probably would have spent several years not being who I am now before I finally found the guts to finally step in and say, okay, this ain't me, I'm telling you who I am.
Yes, indeed. Because it's important. Everyone in the world, it doesn't matter to the army of toy soldiers, so long as you embrace who you are and the passions within you. Because that is our greatest potential as human beings, is our creativity. And at the same time, through that creativity, we can express ourselves of who we are.
Definitely. Plus, like, I'm gonna say, think about, words. I would like to talk about the missions you have. A little list of the different kind of small little missions you can do, either by yourself or with a group, depending. That I find really interesting and quite entertaining whilst trying to do them.
Yes, we do have a nice little kind of selection of missions. These are kind of created by toy soldiers and are left over from the Dr. Steel era at the same time. Things like the mind control bubbles and fun bucks, those are new things. And then there's this Operation Bookmark, which is probably the most simple and easily achievable one of them all, which is you print off bookmarks, cut them up and put them in books. Now this might be at a library, at a bookstore, or even in the leaflet distribution places at various locations throughout the globe, like train stations.
Yes, and I have a very special plan for my school with that one. Yes, the study room will be filled. Yes.
Well, one of my favourites is also survey hypnosis. Now, unfortunately, it's one of my favourites, but unfortunately just can't get around to doing it. And it's one of those ones where you do kind of have to have a bit of guts, because it involves standing in a busy street with a clipboard with the Toy Soldier logo, and I walk up to someone and say, "Excuse me, sir, when you think of fun or creativity or passions or things you love doing, do you imagine this image?" And it doesn't matter what their answer is. Once they've answered you say, "Thank you," and then off you go. But they will have those words associated with that image, and there is your success.
Yes. It'll slowly eat into the mind until they finally enlist. Yeah, like, they're just fun, and just generally, that's that is the concept of it. They're fun, and they're a laugh when it comes to it, and you're just like, I did it, kind of thing. Success. Though, I find that people can be very wary with something that they've never seen before. When I first showed a few of my friends, they didn't seem to be very interested, because they weren't either interested in steampunk or anything of that kind, and I was like, but look at it, it's pretty awesome. And
it usually is a matter of just trying to find that single hook, because including steampunk and the army of toy soldiers and all the various subcultures, there's a lot of overlap, and there are just so many things inside of those subcultures. You just have to find one thing, be it the painting, be it making a prop, be it cosplaying, or just going places, or gaming. You just have to find that one thing that your friend is interested in, and then you've got them hooked. So all you have to do, I know it takes a while, because you are literally, say, it's kind of like brute force hacking a password. You have to go through an entire list of stuff, throw it at them, and hope that one thing will stick. And once you've got that one thing stuck, you draw them in.
Yes. and I'm working on one at the moment. Yeah. No, I have like a few steampunk friends, and that they're just generally not the most. I can't really say anything about because they're awesome people, but they just find themselves not being so enthusiastic about things. I'm just like, well, if you come here, you'll find as much enthusiasm as you possibly need because they have everything you can imagine. That's just generally that, like, come on, like the Toy Soldiers is like my source of inspiration and enthusiasm sometimes, especially when I'm having a bad day with drawing.
I find that to be the case myself more often than not because I have to do occasionally videos and broadcasts and such, and at times I find such a creative block that I have no idea of what I want to do, but I want to do something.
Is there like any like events or future events that people can find or like have a look at in that the Toy Soldiers are involved in?
Well, the Army of Toy Soldiers is, like I said before, all around the globe, and we haven't been as active when it comes to invasions, where we go to a place and make our presence known throughout, as we used to be. But that's mainly down to the fact that, if anything, the Toy Soldiers of the Army of Toy Soldiers has in common is we're all broke. But we do tend to go to certain things, and were you to shout out Toy Soldiers Unite in a clear voice amongst the crowd in, say, a Comic-Con or at the MCM Expos or at any kind of steampunk gathering, you will, sooner or later, get someone who will do the salute back to you and say, Toy Soldiers. If we were to be involved in certain things, we usually do the MCM Expo in London, or at least we try to do. We've been doing that quite often up until recently when the prices for stand holders went up. Usually we're always right next to the steampunks, funny enough. And we'll have a booth, and I will be there selling all the official Toy Soldiers merchandise, but also some of the merchandise that Toy Soldiers have come up with themselves to express their creativities, like paintings. One of which as well is 3D Sniper, who makes chainmail. He will sit there at the table, just knitting his metal into a tie or a glove or bracelets. He makes tons of bracelets. Within 20 minutes, he can have like 3 done to your specifications.
Yeah, I tried. I'm trying the dragon scale chainmail. My dad is furious because there's metal everywhere, and he's just like, I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to make the rings to make the armor, and making the armor can mean some of the rings may go missing.
Little bits of metal all over the place. Yeah. Play havoc with the Hoover.
Yes. Don't I know?
But yeah, that's one of the things. We're also kind of looking at getting more collaboration projects done with other groups. And obviously I'm not going to say out loud who we'd like to work with, because that would ruin the surprise.
Yes.
And if there's one thing I love doing, it's surprises.
Yes, don't I too. So, in a sense, I understand that, I'm just going to hop back a little bit into time, that when Dr. Steele finally did say, okay, guys, I'm stepping back, I'm stepping down. And when you had to, in a way, pick up the pieces and get everything back online, you did get a hit on the numbers to the website, didn't you?
Yes, that was quite unfortunate, to be honest. And we kind of saw a big difference. It went from about 37,000 to 37,000 to 3,700 where we are now, and it's taken quite a few years to get to that point. And that is mainly down to 2 different factors. A lot of people joined the Army of Toy Soldiers initially just to find out about Dr. Steele and just get updates when he released something, and weren't so much involved with the army itself. And then there was the other problem, of course, was the fact that the old website wasn't as well maintained or kept up to date as we had have hoped. And so when the time came to go fully independent, we did have to kind of build from scratch. and there were also various legal issues in the matter. And we've been trying as best as we can, but we didn't have that kind of attraction as Dr. Steele had, that kind of charisma. And that is a shame we kind of lost that. But at the same time, it's given us a chance to reinvent ourselves to a point where we've taken the best things from back then and evolved them. The making fun the top priority, world domination, and creativity and passions. Those are our things now as well, and we are taking those forward as best we can. And thanks to that, we actually have rather than huge numbers who would occasionally pop in every now and again, we actually have quite a strong core group of toy soldiers from around the world who are persistently involved and dedicated, which is handy.
Yeah. Like, because of, like, where I'm at, I've obviously got my hands stuck into the more LGBT-associated stuff, as you know from, recently, within the last few months, I did go to a rally and talk in front of a lot of people, which was very scary.
And that must have taken a lot of guts.
Yeah, I just kind of looked at the person at the front row and just went, yay! And just hoped that I didn't screw up, which I didn't. I was happy with it. And after that, recently after that, when the US had officially, all the states had, like, same-sex marriage, I was just like, we're one step closer.
Yes, indeed, it is those little things that, well, not that in itself wasn't a little, it was huge. Very huge and very important. And it's things like that will eventually get us to the point where we can leave behind the primitive programming of human society and create something brand new and sparkly and fun, and ultimately better than where we were to begin with. And it's just little steps. Take as many of them as possible, take your victories where you can,
yes.
And then bam.
I've definitely found that being in the army, the army toy soldiers, definitely has given me that voice. And it's very loud, and it can be very annoying, but it's there. And to an extent, that gets a lot of traction, and that's what we need, because apparently the Northern Irish government finds that they can just overrule the whole thing. Why can't we just have a referendum like the South? And hopefully within the next year or so, we'll have something of a similar style. Hopefully.
Yes. Oh, here's hoping. If not, well, you'll just have to overthrow the government and install a bunch of robots and AI to take care of things. Because let's face it, robots don't care about your gender, they don't care about your orientations or who you identify as. They just want you to feed them oil.
Yeah, totally. Easy, simple, give them oil, they're happy. In a sense. So I'm just gonna, I think it's like this last little bit. So if you were to, like, talk to someone who's completely not into the, or it's not known of the toy soldier thing, would you have a message for them out there?
Oh yes, I have a message indeed for all the masses out there waiting to be brainwashed. And my message is this. If you want to create, if you want to embrace your passions, do it. Because you will find something within yourselves that you did not know you had before. You might have had an inkling. And as such, you should join the army of toy soldiers, where we shall foster that creativity like it was our own. We will push you. We will propel you. We will strap you to a rocket and send you to the moon. Because we shall march towards a utopian playland where every man, woman and child can embrace their passions and say with their hearts they are truly happy. Go to toysoldiersunite.com.
Yeah, there. So I'm just going to say thank you very, very much for doing this with me, and I hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you very much. It's been great being on the show. I hope you have a good day as well.
Yes, definitely. To Utopian Playland.
To Utopian Playland!